Welcome to Sound Up. I'm Mark Goodman.
And I'm Alan Light. And if you're new around these parts, we deliver 2 episodes each and every week, both featuring the latest music news, big interviews, and everything you need to know about what's going on in the world of music.
So on the Tuesday episode, we feature our new music picks of the week, which, by the way, you can hear on our Sound Up soundtrack playlist on Spotify.
And each Friday episode, like this one right here, is dedicated to you. We read your emails, play your voice messages, and welcome you to our live podcast taping, where you can join the conversation as part of the Sound Up Pod Squad.
And to stay on top of all things Sound Up related and to sign up to join us for a live taping like today, go to our website at sounduppod.com, like us on Facebook, and follow us on Twitter and Instagram, all at SoundUpPod.
This is Sound Up with Mark Goodman and Alan Light, the only music podcast that matters.
All right, damn right. I'm Mark Goodman.
And I'm Alan Light, and welcome to Sound Up.
On today's show, singer-songwriter Matt Nathanson joins us, as does the Sound Up Pod Squad, our live audience that you can be a part of. Go to sounduppod.com to sign up for a future taping.
So, what we want to talk about today, you might have heard there was a new Taylor Swift record recently.
Really?
And you might have heard that it has 31 songs on it, and people have lots and lots of opinions about this. But we've also seen stuff. Olivia Rodrigo just did the Guts Spilled, a deluxe edition of that record. On our most recent show, we had David J. from Love and Rockets, Bauhaus. He put out a box set called Tracks from the Attic, 37 songs worth of demos straight off the cassettes, which hit stores today. So it seems like more and more artists are releasing just about everything they record, or it's a thing people have been dealing with one way or another. It seemed like records were getting shorter, but then we have these box sets with every second of the sessions for the making of an album. And so some folks are editing, curating, putting out the best that they've got, and others are dumping the vaults, letting you hear every working draft and sketch that they recorded.
So really the question is, what do you want? Do you want everything from your favorite artist, or do you want them to just curate, be a little more critical of their releases and just give you, the best of the best? I think Matt Nathanson, who's going to join us in a minute, definitely going to have something to say about that. But before we get to that, Alan, you saw the new version of the Beatles' Let It Be.
I did.
So if you can give that a review, and I want to talk after you do that about the Bon Jovi documentary. The second episode drops today, Friday. The first one dropped last Friday. So how was the Beatles?
So yeah, at risk of over-Beatling all of you, it's been a big Beatles week, so I feel obligated to check in. Actually, 2 things I want to quickly mention. The newly restored version of Let It Be, which has been out of circulation really officially since 1970, when it came and went very quickly. Never released on VHS, never released on DVD, very occasionally would pop up at a midnight screening or a, weird TV broadcast. After going through all the Let It Be footage for the Get Back project a few years ago, the promise was always there. We're going to put out Let It Be. It's exactly the same as it was. Nothing's been recut, nothing's been changed or edited or anything, but everything has been restored and cleaned up and gone through the Peter Jackson decluttering visual treatment.
Yeah.
So the first thing to say is, Let It Be always suffered. It suffered from many things. As we've talked about, the timing sort of destroyed Let It Be. It was shot before the band broke up, but it came out after the band broke up, and so was always seen as this very sad epitaph. Plus, it looked really crappy. It was shot on 16 millimeter. It was blown up to 35 millimeter. It was really dark and grainy and added to that feeling of sadness. So to see it with bright colors, real colors, just makes a difference for how the thing feels. Everybody can see it next week. It's going to be streaming on Disney Plus starting next Wednesday, May 8th. Mm-hmm. I was lucky enough, they did a screening in a theater earlier this week, and I did a Q&A with Michael Lindsay Hogg, the director of the film, and Jonathan Clyde from Apple, who's the producer of this new version of the film, before the screening on Monday. And it's really weird to watch it now, because coming off of Get Back, we fill in all the gaps in our head.
Peter Jackson.
Right?
I was wondering about that.
You know, there's very little dialogue. It's almost all music, if you remember.
Right.
Like there's only a couple scenes where they talk. There's no explanation of what they're doing, why they're doing it, why all of a sudden did we move from the Twickenham studios to the Apple studios? How did we decide to go on the roof? None of that's in Let It Be. All of that's in Get Back. But Jonathan, the producer, made a really interesting point. He said, look, Get Back is a documentary about the making of a documentary. Let It Be is the documentary itself. Like this is what they're doing that you're watching them do in Get Back. So it's really hard to get out of your head all the other stuff and like think about this was the only document. Because it feels so weird and kind of random what's on there. It's interesting how much isn't. Peter Jackson made a point of he doesn't repeat one shot from Let It Be.
Right.
If he used the same scene, he used a different camera.
Different camera, right.
You know, and there's whole things that are just different. All the stuff that they shot the day that they recorded the day after the rooftop show, when they recorded Let It Be and Long and Winding Road, two of us, that's just used under the end credits in Get Back. And those are full performances in Let It Be. So it's really interesting and still a weird mess of a movie, but it's a piece of the history. It deserves to be there. It's great that it can be there now that it can be technically cleaned up and better to look at and truer to the experience.
Remember for me. Let It Be originally, and you said this is the same edit.
Yes.
It was a truncated performance on the top of Apple Records, was it not?
It's only about 15, 18 minutes from the rooftop. And I have to say, for all the issues with like Michael Lindsay Hogg's editing choices and why is this stuff in there, actually the rooftop stuff is done beautifully in Let It Be. It's not the whole thing, but it really gets the whole story when he cuts to the crowd in the street. And when he goes to people gathering on the other rooftops and watching, like you really get, you know, when the cops come and close it down, like you get the full thing that happened. And it's actually impressively done, that segment of it, even next to now that, you know, we've seen the full thing that we'd never seen before. It holds up as that chapter.
Right. All right. Looks like I'm going to have to join Disney Plus.
Yeah. Real quick, I just want to mention that I went Wednesday morning. I'm not sure which day, but at some point in the next few days at the Brooklyn Museum, they're opening this show of Paul McCartney's photographs that he took in 1963 and 64 that were lost in his archives and found these contact sheets a couple of years ago, and they've printed them up. And there's a book that came out and it was shown in London, but it's this big opening at the Brooklyn Museum that's happening. And the stuff is so great and fun and amazing to see him looking out at the Ed Sullivan Show from the Plaza Hotel, backstage in Liverpool, you know, in Miami when they took their little vacation around the Ed Sullivan Show, and to see what Paul was looking at as the whole world was looking at him.
Yeah.
It's really great. If you're in the New York area or if you're coming this way, it is absolutely worth going out to the Brooklyn Museum to check it out.
There was a great piece on local news here the other night about it, and they showed a bunch of the photos, certainly not anything like what it is going to the actual exhibit. And it's going to be going, I think, through mid-August. August 18th, I think, sticks in my head. So, you know, people coming to New York City for the summer, it's going to be around.
It's really, really fun. And at the Brooklyn Museum, there's also this big exhibit of Alicia Keys and Swizz Beatz art collection. So there's a lot of music-y stuff to see at that institution for the next few months.
Yeah, Alicia's just been elevated again. One of the most nominated musicals on Broadway for the Tonys coming up.
That is correct.
She's huge, branching out.
Queen of all media.
Just real quick, I wanted to mention the John Bon Jovi doc. It's called Thank You, Goodnight, the John Bon Jovi Story. And I did a town hall at SiriusXM with John and the director of the series, Gotham Chopra. And this is all happening on the occasion of the 40th anniversary of the band. And there is a ton of stuff going on around it. Certainly this documentary, the series, it's a 4-part series, is a big part of that. The thing about the documentary that sort of helps when it comes to looking forward with Bon Jovi is that he is really, really honest about his vocal struggles. That is one of the main through lines. And he is, I thought, really brave. You see him actually getting vocal cord massages to try and get his cords into the same place. He did surgery. He's working really hard on this, certainly. It's his life. It's my life. But what I found really fascinating is he's okay with whatever happens. He wants more than anything to be able to tour this new record. But he is not willing to go out. He says 100% of 80% is not enough. He will not go out unless he is 100%. He's working towards that. And when I spoke with him, I asked him several times and he just would not come up with. I said, where's the line? Where do you decide, okay, it's not going to happen? He wouldn't commit. He didn't really know when that might happen. He wouldn't commit to a tour when I spoke to them, and that was a week ago. So I don't know how much has changed, but hopefully by the time the record comes out, we may know more. But it's a 4-part series. There is the reputation of the band is certainly burnished in the doc as well it should. I don't feel like it's a totally self-serving doc. I think that Gotham Chopra went really deep with John and with the band. Richie Sambora comes in and he's straight up about what happened. He's apologetic. The other band members weigh in on the politics and what that was like. And overall, I knew Bon Jovi was a star. You know, I was at MTV. I get it. I guess what this movie does is show you two things. One, how incredibly big a star he is today, and how even after that heyday, there was a couple of Duff albums, but he continued to put out great music. The album that he wrote on his own was successful. That is what comes through. John Bon Jovi as a guy who is focused beyond belief. I mean, really focused. He doesn't drink. He doesn't smoke. He never has. He's kind of a straight arrow, but that is what really, I think, allowed him to achieve what he has. And I didn't, sure, every rock star has to work hard to be a rock star. It's an old story. But when you see this story laid out and what John wound up having to go through, especially towards the end with the vocal struggles, it really paints a picture of who this guy is. And it's a fascinating documentary, and you get to hear from everyone. They talk about Alec John Such passing and so on. There's some Rock and Roll Hall of Fame footage.
How's Richie's involvement?
Richie, the first episode ends with Richie Sambora sitting down in the chair in front of the camera, and he looks straight in the camera. So, are we going to tell the truth or are we going to lie? That's how it ends. So coming up on this one, the Friday night drop, that's when his story begins to be told. And, you know, there's stuff that you did not know about him leaving. And there's stuff that we don't know about where they stand today. And it's different than what I imagined. Mm-hmm. So I think he comes off as a sympathetic character. Ultimately, you know, the struggles that wound up seeing him leave the band are behind him. He's worked hard at that, and he is deeply apologetic. And there's more. You get to see him and John together and what it really was, what that working relationship really was, how they played off each other, and what it meant when he suddenly wasn't there. So I recommend it. I think it's really, really a great documentary. It's an hour on a Friday night.
It's for 4 Friday nights.
For 4 Friday nights. Yes, indeed. But I recommend it highly. I think it's a great documentary, and kudos to Gotham Chopra and his editor for going through some incredible stuff. John is a hoarder. We learned that also. And part of the movie is him in his basement when he can't sing. In fact, he's not allowed to speak, going through shoe boxes with cassettes. And it's fascinating. So it is on Hulu. Friday nights is when the drops happen, and the new one is dropping tonight.
Those shoe boxes full of cassettes leads us right into what we're going to be talking about for the rest of the show. It
sure as hell does. We are going to take a break right here, but we're going to come back and dive into that question we were talking about. That's coming up after this on Sound Up.
This is Sound Up with Mark Goodman and Alan Light, the only music podcast that matters.
Hell yeah, we are back. Now, if you have been with us throughout this show so far, you know that our question of the week was, do you want your favorite artist to release everything that they do, every freaking demo and cassette and every little thing, or would you rather maybe they're a bit selective and they just put out their best work?
Or do you even want, say, 31 songs from the biggest artist in the world when it could have been 16? or not. So this is an archive question and a new music question.
Fair enough. And we have a special guest who's going to be joining us in just a moment. We did get a great response from our friend Janet in Detroit on this one.
Hi guys. Regarding the topic of demos and outtakes, I usually only care about digging that deep with a few of my very favorite artists. With them, I tend to be a completist and want to get a hold of everything I can. I used to look for CD singles and imports so I could get every B-side and cover song they released. Now, some artists are using platforms like Patreon to release their extra material. I think that's a smart move because the hardcore fans are the people most likely to appreciate that kind of stuff. I'm a member of Matt Nathanson's Patreon group where he's released everything from covers to demos of new songs to collaborations that have been shelved. He's even shared voice memos from the early stages of building a song. He pairs them with stories about the inspiration of the songs and background behind the recording process. I think that makes it more valuable than just dropping a big collection of stuff all at once without the context behind it. I'm not going to put rough voice memos on any of my playlists, but a lot of this stuff is really great, and it's fun to get that inside look at the process and the evolution of songs.
All right, Janet in Detroit, we thank you for that response.
Conveniently enough.
Would you care to respond, Matt Nathanson?
Damn it, Janet, I love you. That is that was incredibly flattering. Alan, first of all, I take umbrage with Alan's calling Taylor Swift an artist. But
ouch. That's a whole other show right
yeah,
there.
but it's true. I mean, like, she literally exists to sell things. So like what she's doing is selling things. That's like what she does. The music is inconsequential to her business model. It's just a loss leader that you do.
This is a great discussion, and we would love to have it with you. But that's going to take us down a path that we don't have time for, Matt Nathanson.
Okay, but you know how it works, Mark Goodman. It's funny. It's like commerce masquerading as art is the new thing, just like commerce masquerading as politics is the new thing. But anyway, so Janet was fantastic, and I love her.
Why do you put out everything? It's interesting that Patreon makes sense to me because, you're monetizing stuff. So I guess, look, you got to make a living. Artists have to make a living. I get that. But
unless they're Taylor Swift, then it's only commerce. So
Alan, you're acting as if her music is actually music. That's incredible to me. But so anyway, but let's keep going. I don't want to get into this because I don't want to rule the day here on this topic. I don't want to bum you out. So anyway,
tell us why it is that you collect and save this stuff. And when it comes to Patreon, what kinds of things have you put on there? What do you like?
So for me, I just think Patreon is a really great way to make a community. And so for me, it's financially, it's great. I'm fortunate enough where it's not the thing that drives my financial picture, which is great. But what's really rad about it is when I was a kid, I was a member of the Kiss Army. When I was a kid, I was a member of U2's Propaganda fan club. And I wanted that stuff. And I was just like Janet. I went and I bought the B-sides of records that I loved, and I really nerded out about it. And in this environment where music is so secondary to most people because everything is hitting them all at once, and it's like there's a new starving class, which is like the artist, because everybody's like begging for attention. So I think that Patreon is such a fascinating way to be able to pull people together and galvanize a unit of humans where you can give them things that they like, and it's a joy to do. It's not like pissing into a drain pipe. And so I sort of feel like Patreon for me was started and continues to be this incredible way of connecting with people who happen to be fans of mine who will love, like Janet said, I can put up and describe, oh, this is how this song was written and this was the demo. I just think that kind of curation and that kind of thing is my kind of nerdy fun. And I know it's yours too, Alan. I know it's yours, Mark. Like, this is what we love. And so for me, to be able to do it behind a paywall, it's like, it's really the platform that's exciting to me. It's not the paywall. It's like, it's a place where people want to be, where you can like set up this situation and they can be given things and they pay attention to it rather than putting it out into the world where now it just kind of.
So why don't you just stick it on your Facebook page?
Have you been on Facebook lately?
No, I'm actually locked out right now.
So Matt, there's that, but there's different layers of this, right? Because then there's Dylan doing the bootleg series that are releases on Columbia Records, but they're every note of everything. And then there's, I will not bring Taylor into this, but I will bring Prince into this, saying his big fight was, hey, I should be able to put out whatever I want, whenever I want. And the label said, except you can't do that.
Right. And the irony is that Prince only just wanted to put out, as you know, because you're a Prince fanatic, it's like Prince didn't put out any of the, it's like from a percentage standpoint, he put out a tiny bit. He just put out what he wanted to put out. And for me, like Dylan doing it, I think it's great when bands that I love do it. And when bands that I don't love do it, I still think it's great because I might love them in the future. It feels a little bit like an avalanche. Like Dylan releases these things and it's like, the box sets and all this stuff. And I've given up on buying those kind of things just because for me, it's not worth the money and it's not worth my energy because I'm not looking for that kind of specificity out of those artists. But I do think like I love when an artist I love does it. It's one of the greatest joys of my life. Do you know what I mean? Like,
I remember we went through a weird thing, right? LPs could only have 45 minutes of music on them. And then CDs came and everybody was putting out 75, 80-minute CDs. And as with the Taylor record, you had a lot of critics going, you should edit this. You should just put out the best stuff. CDs are too long. Nobody's going to listen to this. And I feel like fans were like, shut up. We'll take whatever you want to give us and we'll figure out, or we'll do our, cassette mix of whichever things we want to include from that. And then we drifted into CDs got back to shorter times.
Yeah.
When you're releasing, how do you think about leaving aside all the archive stuff, releasing new stuff? Do you err on the side of, let me put more out, people want to hear more stuff? Or do you err on like, let me really edit to the best foot forward?
I think I still, because I'm old, I like the idea that a record is a collection of songs that takes a shape. And then what I think is really exciting is my process is it's not a straight line. And so it's fun that all the stuff that doesn't get used, because there might be demos of a song, there might be re-records, there might be whatever, then all that stuff in Patreon for sure. And if I were of the level of Taylor Swift, maybe I would do the same thing. But for me, it's like people who really want it, they can access it. And it's neat for me to be able to talk about it because back in the day, we used to have to like try really hard to want to like get somebody to pay attention to us enough to write an article on us, right? Or this. And we'd have to like, it was such a suck dick process. And it's like, and the same thing happens when you deal in, it used to be like, if I wanted VH1 to do, you have to fight to get people to curate I have a career, like of a long career arc. And for me to be able to put stuff up in this way that then people pay attention to, like a museum of sorts, but not like an interactive experience, to me, that's great because the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is not going to do a Matt Nathanson experience, just a fact. So like the only place for me to do it, and does that mean I'm supposed to be without? You know what I mean? No, I think we should be able to do that kind of stuff. And Facebook is a graveyard of idiots. And so like, you don't even want to go on there. But like, so creating an area where you can do it yourself, it's a real gift. What the platform that Patreon created, in my opinion, is not only the future, but it's pretty fun. Like it's pretty magical. I love it. And if you can keep up with it, if the artist is good about it, it's like a joy. I love it.
So we just had David J. from Love and Rockets on earlier this week, and he just put out 37 songs, 3 discs worth of his home demos, literally his cassettes, song tracks from the attic. Would you say the right thing is put that out as an album? Would you say the right thing is that's what Patreon is for? There's a better way to be utilizing that. How do you think about what goes in which lane?
I think David J knows what David J's fans want, I'm assuming, like people that love him. And so, but for me, I don't think I would during the pandemic, I did a 60-song live record because I thought it was a neat idea that people could assemble with banter and people could assemble it in a playlist any way they wanted to make their own set. And I thought that was a fun trip. But like times change so much in music. Every 6 weeks, it's a different landscape. And so back during the pandemic, that was a very logical way to do it. Now it's not. And so it's like you pivot with this ever evolving madness. You know what I mean? And so David J doing it, if I were a super fan of David Garza, is an artist I love. David he just couldn't stop putting out music. And for me, it got a little overwhelming. I wish that Ryan Adams does it too. I wish there was more curation, but I'm not super fans of Ryan or David.
So going forward then, I hesitate to go down this route. Patreon, a paywall.
Yeah.
Columbia Records, a different kind of paywall. But based on what you've been saying, maybe not Facebook, you could make this stuff available to people if they want. Like you have a website, but you decided to put it behind a paywall.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Tell me why you keep harping on that. What's why?
Because music is commerce.
No, music is art. And commerce is where we go to get music heard by people. So, and if we're going back to the Taylor Swift thing, literally that person exists solely and has relationships in her life solely to sell her product, which is herself. I can't believe we're even having this discussion. You are a very intelligent person. I mean, and it's like this is as much like, oh my God, water's wet, rocks are hard. Like Taylor Swift is not about music. I don't know why we keep having this discussion.
What is it about your things that you find that your fans enjoy most? The things that you save, the outtakes or
They seem to really love entire live shows, that kind of thing. Like back when tape trading was a big deal like when Napster was happening, that was how a lot of my start happened. Like a lot of people were trading my stuff. And so that's kind of what happened with this. They really love when I put live. I have a monthly thing called Aaron's Picks, which is my guitar player. And he picks us, we record every show. And so he'll go in and he'll sort of like pick one he loves and we'll put it up with like an old school bootleg like you would get on the street when you like flip open the CD booklets. So it's really fun.
Who do you follow to that degree of fandom?
Probably U2.
Def Leppard, Prince. Joni Mitchell's been curating an incredible like vinyl Joni Mitchell collection thing. And I find myself stunned by how rad it is because her output is so minimal now, like non-existent really. REM, I'm a super nerd for REM stuff when they were doing it, when they would put out their Christmas 7-inch. And I do a 7-inch on my Patreon as well for the top tier. So we make a 7-inch and send it out every year and it's fun. I'll tell you what, Matt, what you have done here with us today is so great that we're going to have you back because there's a whole other topic
I know
we need to get into.
Let me just.
And
I
it's
love
not
you
the
both.
first time that this has happened with you. I
love you.
I just want to say thank you, and we love you right back. I want to say thank you for taking time. It was a very, very last minute call that we made to you, but we knew that you would be great for this. So we appreciate you carving out the time. And maybe in addition to the show I'm thinking of, we're going to have you back to talk about that Taylor covers record that you're working on.
I would love it. That'd be great.
You got tour starting?
Leaving tomorrow for an acoustic run of just solo shows. And then the summer, I'm out with Switchfoot and Blue October, like a 3-headed headline thing. And so it's good. But I love you guys. And I know it's all in good fun. But I mean,
we bring you here to pop off. We know that.
Matt Nathanson, we knew that you would be perfect for this. Thank you so much. Stay right where you are. The Sound Up Pod Squad has gathered. I see a lot of smiling faces in front of me. We're going to take a fast break. And when we come back, we're going to get your take on our question of the week. We'll be right back.
It's your turn to sound up, right here on Sound Up with Mark Goodman and Alan Light.
All right, welcome back to Sound Up. As promised, this is our second show of the week, the Sound Up Sound Off show. And we have our Sound Up Pod Squad who has joined us. And the question is, I guess it's for anybody who is a super fan. The question is about how you feel about your favorite artist releasing everything.
And it's twofold. There's two pieces to this. There's the archive. Do you want to hear all the demos, the outtakes, the rough drafts, all the junk, along the way? But also, simultaneously, whatever it is that Matt Nathanson thinks of Taylor Swift, so much of the dialogue around this new album, so many of the reviews have been, she shouldn't have put out 31 songs. It's too much. She needs an editor. It's too demanding. But I'm not seeing that from fans. I'm seeing that from critics on a deadline saying, you just messed up my weekend because now I have to spend twice as much time listening to this album as I thought. If you saw this week's chart, I know it's the first week. Mark, I don't know if you saw this. The Hot 100 this week, there are 31 Taylor Swift songs in the Hot 100, including number 1 through 14. If you're Casey Kasem this week, once you hit 15, the rest of the way, you're just introducing Taylor Swift songs. So for everybody who's like, and these were the reviews that drove me crazy. Here's what she should be doing. Like, first of all, I hate that in any review. Don't tell me what an artist should. You're not an A&R guy. Don't tell me what they should be doing.
Yeah.
Right. So I want to hear from fans on both of these things of, do you want all the old stuff? And when there's a new record, do you want like, give me your best 10 and out? Or do you want, hey, I'm on for the ride if you want to give me everything that you're thinking about and writing about?
Let's, Laurel, you want to weigh in first?
Sure. Hi, fellas. I love the archive thing. If there's old stuff, I'll listen to it. Down with hearing demo versions of songs that maybe were hits and, oh, here's how it originally was going to be done. Love hearing all that.
Do you actually listen to that stuff, or do you just like the idea of you could listen to it?
Both.
Do you listen to it more than once?
If it's something like a really unique demo of here's what the hit was, here's maybe how the hit started. Well, sometimes I might like how the hit started better than the way it ended up. And I would maybe listen to that more than ending up with the hit. Now, as far as releasing a ton of stuff, sometimes more isn't always better. It's just more. So, and as a singer, when I go in the studio, I absolutely do not want people to hear any of the outtakes.
Right.
Oh my
Your duff
God.
takes.
And especially, by the way, when we're dealing with artists who are no longer around, right? That's always the question of, if an artist is gone, and is it okay for the estate to decide, hey, here's stuff they didn't think was good enough to put out, but we're going to put it out now.
Oh my God, no. I have like secret files on the computer. My engineer and I are the only ones. I'm like, no. Do you swear on a stack of Bibles when I'm dead? Like, do not ever let this stuff go anywhere. I'm also sort of a perfectionist. So I want stuff to be the best of the best. Now, if it's a demo that sounds okay, that's a different way of doing it, then I'm fine with that. But outtakes and stuff, nope.
If people want to reach out to us via email or send an audio message, it's connect@sounduppod.com. That's how you can reach us. We got an audio message from Melissa.
Hey guys, it's your friend Melissa from Louisville, Kentucky. And yes, it's the best week of the year here in Louisville. It's Derby week, and that means there's a lot of music happening. We've got John Batiste coming in tomorrow for one gala. Bruno Mars is headlining the Trifecta Gala. The gala I work on as a volunteer, we're going the classic route with Richie Sambora and John Elefante from Kansas, as well as a couple other artists. And the Barnstable Brown has a whole slew of musical artists running from country to Louisville's own Jack Harlow to a bunch of folks. So excited to share a review next week with you and let you know if I had any really cool celebrity run-ins, like the time I ran into Ralph Malph, Donnie Most in the elevator and asked him what his Derby picks were. Anyway, on your other topic, I love the creative process. So for me, B-sides, outtakes, song sketches, I do want it all. I want to hear how the record that I fell in love with came to be through some of the artist's creative and thought processes. So yeah, I love it and I do buy it. However, I know that there can be some self-indulgent overload. And if you haven't checked out the song Box Set by the Bare Naked Ladies, I think they do a fantastic job of skewering some of the self-indulgence that can come from some of these projects. Excited to hear from everybody else. Sorry I can't join you live on the pod, but I will either be losing or hopefully winning money at the track. Have a great one, guys.
That's awesome. Thank you, Melissa. David, thank you for showing up today. David from New Jersey/Florida. Welcome.
My son Aaron is a completist, and he has to have everything by everyone every time. I started out sort of that way back in college. We used to have reel-to-reels, and we would have live tapes. So there's a difference, I think, between live shows, especially for Grateful Dead fans, of course, and this dumping of everything in the world stuff. I'll put it in one simple phrase: lasting value. Because I know my son every year buys me the Kinks box set of this and the Kinks box set of that. And I listen basically to the basic album, and the other stuff I listen to once. I say, oh, that's interesting, but these are baby pictures. And I think Laurel said it best. Did the artist really intend for us to look at these things? It's very interesting to look at. In Purple Chick sends out Simon & Garfunkel's bookends, and there's a whole different lyrics for some of the songs. Act the Zoo had a different lyrics. I listened to it once and said, that's cool. The Saved the Life of My Child. Different lyrics. Very cool once. But I really want to see the artistic process, but I want to see the final results. And George Martin didn't go crazy producing these things, and these fellas didn't go crazy doing it, and they wanted a real package to be sent out. When I was on the college radio, the station manager always said, don't talk over the artist's work. There's a producer who put that intro in there on purpose, and you are just making a bloody mess out of it, and so do not mess with the producer. So my feeling is if I come out on it as a fan, sure, do I like it? But as someone who's realistic, just dumping everything in the world is things that is interesting once maybe, but does not have the lasting value that I'm looking for. The end.
Yeah, that is the question, right? Like, we're not going to say, as fans, we're not going to say, like, don't give us the option, like, don't do it and we don't want to hear it. But is it a thing that you really do that we then go and spend time with or want to listen to when we could listen to
completed works?
What they decided was the finest version of that. So, that's very fair.
Thank you, David.
Our friend Brian Ives, who is a radio journalist and sometimes print journalist, just to set up what he's doing here. Brian sent us a message saying, I spoke to Matt Cameron about this. I interviewed him for the Hater reissues. This was after the Temple of the Dog reissue had been announced, but before there was a track list. I asked what would be on it, and he said, I think there's probably alternate takes, and Chris made some demos. Some of his demos are amazing. I think that would be okay. I guess it depends on the quality. As a musician, I like people to hear the finished product. It's not a deal breaker for me. It's more of a philosophical difference, I guess. The process of creating music is fantastic as an artist, but there's got to be some privacy there. This is what David was just talking about. We started talking about the then latest Dylan Bootleg series installment, which had 20 versions of Like a Rolling Stone. And we laughed about it. He's like, how often are you going to listen to all of that? So there's an artist saying, you know what, I guess it's okay, but really honestly, I'd rather you just hear what we thought was the best version.
Well, being a completist these days involves this. When I was a completist in high school, just meant that I had to have all the albums, Now it's become now you need like a separate warehouse for this crap. Van Biohazard, where are you coming down on this?
A big sometimes.
Sometimes.
Yeah. A favorite artist, say Kate Bush. Yeah. I'm a curious person. I always want to know how the sausage is made. How does this work? How does that work? And when you listen to those early versions of songs, that's how it was made. I think that's really interesting. The second part, though, when you say how many times will you listen to it? Probably not that many times, to be honest. But maybe like Laurel said, maybe there'll be something specific in there that I do want to listen to again. But mostly the listening to B-sides, demos, all that kind of thing, is to satisfy my curiosity. Where did that come from? What did it sound like before? What is this alternate take like? That's why I want to listen to it. Can I talk about Taylor Swift for a second?
Talk about Taylor, because I was just going to say, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I do want to ask, like I said, we went through an era of CDs getting really long. Then people really feels like they kind of tightened that up and felt like, you know what, that's too much. Now we're back in it doesn't have to be Taylor. The Beyonce record is 27 songs long. The Taylor record is 31 songs long. That there's a little more sense of, especially those with those kinds of fan bases saying, you know what, as we know, Drake is putting out music every week. So yeah, talk about Taylor or however you want to get into the sort of new music piece.
Okay, so I'm not a Swiftie. If I never hear Shake It Off again, it'll be too soon. But I'm also fair, and I listened to all of her latest album. I went to a dark room, put my headphones on. I listened to it 2.5 times.
Wow.
I liked it. And maybe I like Off the Grid Taylor. Maybe that's my thing. Is I don't care for pop stuff. I like off the grid stuff. It is kind of long, and her voice sounds the same. There's not a lot of sort of difference from one song to the next. The songs are different, but her voice, she doesn't approach the songs that much differently. But I ended up really liking it a lot. It's a little bit long. It's a little bit long for someone like me who is not necessarily a fan, but I will listen to it again. So
that didn't put you off.
No, that didn't put me off at all.
What's going to wind up happening, I think what happens with all of us in that situation, I'm going to listen to the Taylor record plenty, but there's going to be certain, there'll be certain sides that I'll listen to when sides are available. There's going to be a certain block, and it's probably not going to be as it was years ago. You know what? I want to listen to the Taylor album. And that's what you listen to.
Yeah, but I was reading an exchange about this. And again, this is a huge thing in the sort of critics community right now. Is it the role of critics to say, and our man Rob Sheffield
Mr.
weighed
Completist
in responding to something. And he was like, listen, I wanted all 6 sides of Sandinista. Like everybody else, I made a cassette of the songs that I wanted from Sandinista, and all of ours were different, right? I did it too. I fit what could fit on a 90-minute cassette. And I'm sure that mine and Roger's and Rob's were not the same 90 minutes worth of that album. And that's what everybody's going to playlist the Taylor album to the stuff that they want to listen to. Or, I've been listening to it because I feel like I'm not going to sit for the 2 hours and I don't want to just listen to the first 10 songs every time. I've been listening to the Taylor album on shuffle, right? So that I'm at least jumping through different songs on it. These are all options that are, ways to listen to the massive stuff. That doesn't mean you're locked in for 2 hours to do it. We all do what we will do.
Cassette, or you make a playlist these days. you pull the songs that you want.
Yeah.
I get it.
But when I listened to it first, I did listen to it all the way through. And I did that 2.5 times. I had to go for dinner.
That's 5 hours right there. So that's a day's work.
Thank you, Van Biohazard.
Thank you, Sharon.
Alan, I got to ask you. We got one more email, or actually a Facebook post I want to get to. But you're a Beatles completist. We'll start with that. And I know that when the White Album, extended White Album came out, we had a long conversation about that. And that is one that, do you listen to those extra albums, extra outtakes these days? And I know that the Beatles is the one to ask you about.
And the White Album on its own is the one to ask about, because the White Album is the original. Some people going, this is too long and it would be better if it were one LP and it didn't have the weird stuff on it. If it didn't have the weird stuff on it, it wouldn't be the White Album. It would be something else. So that's where that's the first example of this debate is that's the one. I do listen to there's the Esher demos. Disc for the White Album. I just listened to that recently. That I do still listen to. The alternates, maybe not so much. Interested in the algorithm, I do a lot of. I just put the Beatles into Spotify on shuffle and listen to whatever comes up. It doesn't tend to go a lot to the alternate stuff. In some ways, I wish that it did more. I don't.
It probably would if you played those alternates on your Spotify more. That probably is so. But I listened some. The White Album is like the best that they did of any of the box sets by far, I think. And that's the one that I think they did the best job with. So I do listen sometimes to some of that stuff, yes. But of course, not the same way that I listen to the albums as they were released. But as a general topic, and also Prince is the other obvious one that we would speak to you about. You're down with this.
I am. But again, I'm more interested, like the Prince thing that interests me. And again, bringing it up to the Taylor thing is in his lifetime, Prince's one of the big fights with the label was, I want to put out a record. I go to Warner Brothers. They say, you just put out a record. We're not going to let you put it out. By the time they want me to put that one out, I have another one I want to put out, and they won't do it. Taylor is living that out. Taylor is taking advantage of, I have the power to be able to put, there's no need to put out a new album right now, much less 31 songs right now from a sort of commercial view. But she's like, hey, this is the stuff I want to have out there. Not that she's doing it on, in the same way that she's owning her masters in the way that he wanted to be owning his masters.
But Alan, you didn't think when Prince finally does do this and he puts out Emancipation and you get these 3 CDs, you didn't listen to that and go, God, I wish this was maybe like 1 CD shorter. It would have been a lot better.
But I wish it was 3 CDs that he had put out 6 months apart. And his thing was, they won't let me do that. So I'm just going to have to, whatever. That was that deal to say, here's all the stuff that I've got. Yeah, 3 hours of Emancipation is way too much. But I feel like he was backed into that a little because what he wanted was to be able to steadily be putting out stuff. And Warner Brothers was like, yeah, we don't market that way. So that doesn't really work. That's the most interesting dynamic for that. When you're dealing with somebody that prolific, how do you handle this kind of flow of output?
Right. I'll tell you what, we have one, not an email, we have a Facebook post. You can always hit us on our socials, It's at SoundUpPod. Sherry Thomas on Facebook says, wish I could be there for the live show. I want all the outtakes, the demos, and B-sides, especially if it's Prince or In Excess. So there you go.
We have our favorites. That's how it works.
There you go. We appreciate you guys showing up. It's an interesting take, and we get to know who are the hardcore fans, the completists among us. And we appreciate every one of you showing up today for this live taping. Spread the word. We'd love to have you on a future Sound Up, Sound Off show. Many thanks to all who showed up. Van Biohazard, Laurel, David in Florida, all the people who showed up this afternoon. Much appreciated. And we will be back once again with a brand new episode of Sound Up on Tuesday. Catch you then.
All of you out there, we have added to our website a gallery and video page where you can send us photos and videos when you meet up with other Pod Squad members, when you go to shows, albums you've purchased, merch, all of that kind of stuff. Send us your photos, send us your videos, and we will put them on the website. We love sharing that kind of stuff with you. And we will do the same.
That's going to wrap us up. Don't forget to go give us a 5-star rating on whatever platform you listen to Sound Up on. We will see you next time here on Sound Up.
Sound Up is hosted by Mark Goodman and Alan Light, produced by Roger Coletti, distributed by Revolver Podcasts. Get Sound Up on Pandora Podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. To be a part of the show, email us at connect@sounduppod.com. Sound Up theme music is by Smile from Tokyo. We'll see you next time right here on Sound Up with Mark Goodman and Alan Light.